Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session. Now, as trainers, we have a responsibility. And what is that? To ensure that you attain or hone or develop or create the right skills to ensure that you can ace the test. Now, when it comes to VARC, the task is a tad difficult. We really have to understand what is the question setter trying to do. Now, we are not privy to the discussions with the question setter. We don't know who they are. We probably will have a rough idea, maybe some faculty members, but who knows? And then they create these questions. It is from looking at the question and figuring out what they do with this question can we make sense of what is going through their mind, and then we can create counter strategy to handle the questions, right? That is a logical thing to do. Now we have these odd sentence questions in the CAT. We have got 5 sentences given to you, 4 belong to the paragraph, 1 does not, and you have to figure out which is that one sentence that does not belong to the paragraph. And in such a question, we have to figure out what goes on in creating these questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to meet some crazy question setters. I'm using the word crazy. Yes, I'm using the word crazy. What I've done is I picked up 6 odd sentence questions from across CAT papers. And I can actually pick up every single question paper, but then it's going to be a long session. I just picked up 6 to illustrate my point. So let's get started, ladies and gentlemen, with this. And we're going to meet some evil question setters. Let's start with this question from CAT 2019 slot number 1. So, of course, the objective that we have is to identify that sentence which does not belong to the paragraph. It may belong to the larger discussion, but does not belong to the specific paragraph. Okay. We have got the first sentence that talks about one argument is that actors that do not fit within the single well-defined category may suffer an illegitimacy discount. So you've got this word actors. So immediately when you look at this sentence, naturally you will see that one argument means that this needs some kind of a support from a previous sentence, right? So there could be many arguments, and then this is one argument. Okay. The second sentence start by saying others, which is nice. Or this sentence, of course, also needs support. Who are these others? Believe that complex identities confuse audiences about organization's role and purposes. So we've got a lot of this word. So one word that we can see is this complex identity. We've got audiences. We've got this word which is organization. So these are the keywords. It's important to look at these keywords. It makes sense. So there are others who believe that complex identity does something negative. So obviously the sentence before that could probably talk about there are some people who will believe that complex identities does something positive and others believe it is negative. Okay, that's probably the sentence that we're looking at. Some organization. So we have got this echo word. Echo word is a word that's getting repeated. Have complex, multi-dimensional identities. So, okay, the word identities is getting repeated, and complex identities, right? So you've got that repetition that span or combine categories, while other organization possess narrow identities. So this talks about there are these complex identities, there are also narrow identities. So this obviously as a sentence must come before sentence number 2, if at all both of them is part of the conversation, because this is specifically talking about complex identities, and this one is talking about some organisms having complex identities and narrow identities. Okay. Then you have identity. Oh, that's identity is one of the most important features of organizations. Okay, we have got a repetition of that idea, but there exists opposing views. That's interesting. This word opposing views among sociologists about how identities affect organized performance. An opposing view would mean that there is something that is positive, there is something that is negative. Negative statement is mentioned, probably positive statement is mentioned there. Those who think that complex identities, so we have got a repetition of that word, are beneficial. So that's a positive thing, right? Beneficial point to strategic advantages of ambiguity and organization potential to differentiate themselves and other belief. So now we know that the sentence number 5 and sentence number 2 must be in. For sentence number 5 and sentence number 2 to be in, sentence number 4 must also be in. right? And between, so once we identify the sentence number 4 is in, sentence number 5 is in, sentence number 2 is in, when you look at the sentence, it talks about actors. Who are these actors? Who the hell are these actors? What are these actors we are talking about? What is this thing that we are talking about? Illegitimacy, discount, what are these things? But I believe the sentence number 3 is connected to this thing, as organization having complex identities and narrow identities. There are identities that is there. Some are complex, some are narrow. But there are those who think that complex identities are beneficial, others who think that complex identities are not beneficial, and then figuring out that odd sentence is number 1. Okay, makes sense, right? No issues. But this is not a session on how to answer an odd sentence question, right? We have to look at the question. So this question, and figuring out sources from this question itself is a complete painful task, right? So it takes, in fact, quite a lot of time to hunt for it, because only thing that you can do is take one sentence and then put it on the Google and figure out where it's taken from. And you typically, what happens is that there are a lot of sites which has got CAT 2019 paper. Those sites come in first, and then you have to hunt, go to page number 2, make some combinations, and then eventually figure out, oh, I got it. This is from a journal article, American Journal of Sociology. Okay, what is interesting is that this is the paragraph. Okay, so let's start by looking at this particular paragraph. And the first sentence says, identity is one of the most important features of organization, but is a strong disagreement. Okay, fair enough. This number 1 is our sentence number 4. It started with sentence number 4. The argument stems from a simple but important observation that the question setter decided to ditch, right? So we have seen this in paragraph jumble. I don't know if you have watched that particular video. You should watch that video as well. This talks about and then it starts by saying that some organization have complex multi-dimensional and that category, blah 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 blah. This, ladies and gentlemen, is sentence number 3. Here makes sense. Those who think that complex identity beneficial strategy ambiguity in the knowledge put the competitors, and so you have that sentence number 5. So here till in sentence number 5, and of course, as always, this in contrast is it's all ditched. There are scholars who believe, so the question setter decided to put it as other scholars who believe the complexity is in that purpose. That is sentence number 2. So the order therefore is 4, 3, 5, and 2, something that we identify. But what is very interesting is, where is this odd sentence picked from? This is odd sentence here. Where is that picked from? That is in fact picked from the very next sentence. In particular, Zuckerman argues that actors that do not fit within a single well-defined category may suffer an illegitimate discount. What? That 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 is still part of that paragraph. It is that is the right next sentence. Complex identities confuse audience, and one of the argument to that is actors do not fit in well in category in the eyes of attentive audience. Okay, now why did the question setter decide that out of, I'm sure that the odd sentence in this, so fine, so question setter ensured that these 4 sentences together forms a paragraph, and in the question setter's mind, the question setter has to create an odd sentence. What is the best way to create an odd sentence? Just give the next sentence. But why is it odd? This sentence could have been picked from anywhere else. This odd sentence could be created by the question setter himself, or could be picked from some other part of the article, but it was picked right here. Now, you would of course argue that, look, when you look at this as a paragraph, this is a well-connected paragraph. Identity is one of the most important features of organization, but there exists opposing views among sociologists about how identity affects organization performance. Some organizations have complex multidimensional identities that span or combine categories, while other organizations possess narrow identities. Those who think that complex identity is a beneficial point of strategy advantage of ambiguity and organizations potential differentiate themselves competitors. Others believe that complex identity confuse audience about organized roles and purpose, and therefore this particular sentence no way can fit in here, because there is no context to that. Probably you look at in this case, in particular, somebody argues that actors that do not fit with the well category in the eyes of the attentive audiences. And if you actually look at it, this particular sentence, we don't know actually how to connect this sentence to this. We just don't know. So what the question setter decided is that, okay, I'm just going to keep that sentence. I'm just going to keep that sentence, because logically, for nobody can ever think of connecting that sentence with this particular paragraph. So it works. But why would it give that sentence? That means that the question setter really wants to pick the odd sentence which is in the same topic. And okay, so this probably will be an article which is, it's a journal entry, right? So it's going to have at least about 10-15 paragraphs. The question setter could have picked up an odd sentence from some other paragraph, but no, I'm going to pick up an odd sentence which is near to that paragraph, so that the odd sentence looks very similar to the conversation that is happening, and people might get confused. And on top of it, I'm going to remove words like this. What is it? So argument 7 from example, but important observation. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove stuff like in contrast. I'm going to make life painful for the guy, person writing the test, you and me. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want people to look at these connector words, obvious connector words. I'm going to make life difficult. I would want probably people to use logic to answer this question. That's probably what that is. Let's go to number 2. Okay, this one is bonkers. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's figure out what that is. So first of all, we have this word translators, and then there is word bumblebees, right? So there are two keywords that comes out, and it says that translators are like bumblebee. So there is some sort of a comparison that is made between this T and B. So you've got a T and B, and they are similar, though long since scientifically disproved. This so this is a good indicator. This something that is very near. This factoid is a repeated unreliable fact, right? Is still routinely touted out. So there is something that is touted out. Obviously, this particular thing requires some sort of a support. We need to look at some factoid. If two has to exist with the factoid. Two cannot exist independently without that. So this is a sentence that needs support. So I'm going to call these sentences NS sentences that need support. The first sentence actually does not need any support of any other sentence prior to it, right? Similar. So obviously, this sentence also needs support. Similar pronouncement about the impossibility. That's a word there. So we're looking at the word impossibility of translation. So we have got repetition of that keyword. Have dogged practitioners in Leonardo Bruni's De Interpretione Recta, published in 1424. So we have a date mentioned here. There's a date here. Okay. Bees, unaware of these deliberations, continued to go flower to flower. So we have got repetition of that words, which is bees. Okay, bees is bumblebees or bees, unaware of these deliberation. What are the deliberation? What are the discussion? Some debates. They are unaware of this debate, have continued to flit from far to far. And then we have got this sentence which says translators continue to translate. So this in one way is linked to this, saying that look, translators are like bumblebees. In what way are like bumblebees? So there are some deliberation that is happening, but both don't care. The bees continue to do what they do, and translators continue to do. In 1934, French entomologist Auguste Magnin pronounced the flight of a bumblebee. We have got the repetition of that particular word is aerodynamically impossible. So now it makes sense. Now stuff makes sense. Now here, logically, what you see is that we need to have sentence number 1. Translators are like bumblebee, right? That makes sense. How are they similar? In 1934, people talk about impossibility of bumblebee, and then we have got impossibility of translation. And these two people who are unaware of this deliberation continue to do what they want to do. So you can actually see some logical thing about 1, 5, 3, and 4. Now you might want to talk about, okay, but what about this sentence? I mean, we can talk about this factoid is still routinely trotted out. This has been scientifically disproved. And this is scientifically disproved. And why not, for example, go from, you might actually think, why not go from 1? Okay, go to 5, and then go to 2, and end with a 3. Right? Translators are like bumblebees. French bumblebees are impossible. These are disproved, but still people talk about it. And similarly, there is impossibility of translation of dog is practitioner. Okay, so it talks about like. So there is similar pronouncement. That could be the like thing. Why not this? I mean, there is no rule that the paragraph has to be complete, but there is nothing that suggests the paragraph has to be complete. People could go with this. The actual answer that is given is sentence number 2. And that in one sense makes sense. So it's 1, 5, 3, and 4 is sort of a complete, well tight sort of paragraph. But, but it is taken from the spectator, the translator, a spy. This is the paragraph. Okay, understand this. Translators are like bumblebees. Wonderful. Sentence number 1. In 1934, French entomologists flight is impossible. Oh, yes. Sentence number 5. What is the sentence number 2? Or odd sentence? Sentence number 3. Why? Why? All right. So let's go back and look at the previous question. All the 5 sentences are there in the same paragraph. The last sentence is decided as the odd sentence. All the 5 sentences can be found in the paragraph, but the middle sentence is decided as an odd sentence. Okay, you can logically say that this odd sentence here does not play a role in the paragraph. If you actually look at it, this paragraph is complete in itself. You could also give that logic here that this sentence does not actually play a role. It's kind of odd here. Why is it odd? It's not adding value to anything to the conversation, which means that this sentence number 1, 3, 4, and 5 is very tight in itself. It tells us a story, and this sentence is actually not really needed in that conversation. And it makes sense. The sentence makes sense. There's no doubt. Translators are like bumblebees. In 1934, French entomologist Auguste Magnin pronounced a flight of the bumblebee to be aerodynamically impossible. Similar pronouncement. Similar pronouncement. It makes sense. This is well-connected sentence. About the impossibility of translations, have dog practitioner since this one. I believe the reason why this has become odd, okay, is because this is now cut into a 2 sentence, right? Now, if this is not there and cut into 2 sentences, now this doesn't make any sense. Similar pronouncement, there is no pronouncement here. So the pronouncement, so in the original piece, this sentence here was that one complete sentence. In this one, this gentleman pronounced the flight of the bumblebee around a diamond impossible, and this one, and then you have got a similar pronouncement, right? So here, because this is one whole sentence, these 2 sentences are well connected. But if you now break this sentence and cut this and create this part as one separate sentence, it is very difficult to move from here to here. It doesn't make sense. It has to actually move from 5 to 3 makes sense. You have got pronouncement, you have got similar pronouncement. That is what is logic. But what is the question setter doing? The question setter wants to give that odd sentence, which is very challenging for you. How? I'm just going to pick one sentence that is probably there in the same paragraph and then make your life difficult. Then moving on, let's figure out. Okay, so this is the third question, CAT 2017. We are going to 2017 now. It is not very difficult actually. Over the past fortnight, so fortnight will be what? A couple of weeks. One of its, this sentence definitely requires support. Finest champion managed to pull out a similar impression. So we need support for this sentence. Sentence number 1, if sentence number 1 has to exist in this paragraph, sentence number 1 definitely requires some other sentence for its support. So you have got similar what? You have got a similar impression. One of its finest champion. What is its finest champion? Wimbledon's greatest illusion is a sense of timelessness it evokes. This makes sense. Now, probably this one, and we are looking at this impression. It's about the illusion in the time of sense it evokes, and this is probably 2 and 1 goes together perfectly. Wimbledon's greatest illusion is a sense of timelessness it evokes. Over the past fortnight, one of Wimbledon's finest champion has managed to pull off a similar illusion, and that's the connection. And who is that person? We have got the name in being introduced here. This makes sense. Now it makes sense. Three has to be the part of the conversation. At 35 years and 343 days, Roger Federer became the oldest man to win the singles title in the Open era, a full 40 years after he first claimed the title as a scruffy ponytail upstart. Oh, now at the end of the day, we know for a fact that these three sentences need to be there. I think this conversation has to be there. I think there is no way these sentences is well packed. Once he, okay, this obviously would be Roger Federer, survived the opening week. Now we have a discussion about what is happening in the opening week. The second week witnessed a range of rested. So this is what is going on here. This is talking about some specific detail, getting into deep. We are just introducing the story. We just started with the story. And given that his method we have got his method isn't reliant on explosive athleticism and muscular ball striking, both vulnerable to decay, there is a cause to believe that Federer will continue to enchant for a while longer. Enchant, nice. You have got that is the repetition of that thought and idea that he creates illusion, is creating impression. So he's at 35, he's the oldest man to do it, and 35 is oldest man to do it. So let's pick another color there. 35 is oldest man to do it, and he's continue to do that. And I know that 5 can be the part of the conversation for sure, and there is 5 has to be the part of the conversation, and 4 can be skipped, because what are the 4 actually doing? 4 is talking about something very specific, talking about what is happening in the opening week, what is happening the next week, why is he rested, give me some context. This is not there. Okay, fine, good, no problem. But let's look at what the question setter has done. This is actually taken from the Hindu, this article. I don't know whether you're able to read this. Okay, so I'm just going to put it like this, okay, so that we can read. So we have got this sentence: Wimbledon's greatest illusion, sense of timelessness is woke. Over the past fortnight, his Halloween lost one of the finest time full of impression. At 35, 32 years old, my opener full of fluffy upgrade starts. Okay, we have got that sentence. I believe that this sentence is the second sentence. This is the first sentence in the question. There's a second sentence, then the first sentence, and we have got a third sentence. Okay, let's find out this sentence. The odd sentence is 4. Let's find out where is the fifth sentence. Okay, let's continue this and figure out where the fifth sentence. Sunday's time continued a dominant magical tremendous maestro, something no one saw coming. Okay, when limped no. Okay, but too far-sighted Federer opted for a 6-week undergo surgery, regain health. The reason with the body expression. Where is that sentence? For the second week, witness a range of a rested Federer genius. We have got our odd sentence. Once he survives, we witness rested genius. We have an odd sentence here, right in the middle. We are odd sentence here. We've got the odd sentence. But where is the last sentence? Grigor, where is that sentence? Ladies and gentlemen, where is that sentence? Oh dear God, there it is. What just happened? The question setter create a paragraph by picking, ladies and gentlemen, the first 3 sentences, and then jumped and picked this sentence and connected those 4 sentences together and made a paragraph. And gave an odd sentence which is right in the middle of it. And I'm sure that is an odd sentence. There is no problem. Okay, if you look at this, this is an amazing 4 sentence. It's a paragraph. It makes complete sense. Wimbledon's greatest illusion is a sense of timelessness it evokes. Over the past fortnight, one of his finest champions managed to pull off a similar impression. At 35 years and 343 days, Roger Federer became the oldest man to win the singles title in the Open era, a full 14 years after he first claimed the title as a scruffy ponytail upstart. Even that his method isn't reliant on explosive athleticism or muscular ball striking, both vulnerable decay, there is a cause to believe that Federer has continued enhanced longer. And then this particular sentence, this has got no role. The way in which this paragraph has been created, this sentence has got no role there, because this is talking about something that is specific. We are talking about opening week and second week. Why are we talking about that? It doesn't fit in the conversation. But look at what the question setter is doing. The question setter is taking a source, not blindly copying it, They're actually creating a paragraph independent or probably different in its structure from the original source. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we were to think odd sentences, okay, there that if we ever think that odd sentence questions, how do they create? Yeah, what is so easy to create? Take one paragraph which has got four sentences, give the four sentences, pick one sentence randomly from somewhere else. No, no. Okay, all right. We are hitting 2020. It's a lot. Let's see. You, yeah, can observe truth of this. Okay, nice, 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 nice. This truth of this. What is this? What is this? Okay, this sentence needs support. This sentence needs support. Needs somebody else. In every e-business model, every constructed, monopolize. That's an idea. Monopolize and protect data. When I'm looking at this sentence, the way in which this sentence is constructed, this e-business is given as an example of a particular phenomena. You can observe the truth of this. So the truth is already mentioned. So let me give an example of the truth about that. In e-business model, ever consider there's monopolization and protection of data. Okay, so if this sentence has to exist, then the discussion has to be about monopolizing data. Economists and technologists believe, so we have got some new people, new set of belief. There are somebody, these people's believe. Okay, now believe would be when you have sentences like this, the author is trying to use someone else as a part of the conversation. That a new kind of capitalism is being created, different from industrial capitalism as was mental capitalism. Now you have got another term, which is a term is capitalism. Okay, so this one talk about capitalism. All right. In 1962, Kenneth Arrow, the guru of mainstream economics, said that in a free market economy, the purpose of inventing things is to create intellectual property rights. Now, this word here, which we can actually see this word, which is intellectual property right. Purpose of inventing things. Your inventing thing is to create intellectual property right, and intellectual property right is about protecting data, right? So there probably is not a direct link, but from an idea perspective, there is sort of a connection between what you can see in 1 and 3, though there is no connection between here probably a free market economy to capitalism. But this is talking about inventing things to in this idea to create intellectual data. Okay, there is alongside the world of monopolized information and surveillance a different dynamic. There is alongside the world of this survey a different dynamic growing up. Information is social good, incapable of getting owned. So that is in contrast between protecting data. So the word alongside suggests, okay, so alongside is another indication that while this monopoly is happening, there is also a different thing that is happening, which is a social good. Okay, so let me pick another color. I've already picked. Let me pick this one. Social good, incapable of getting on. Yet, that is a movement. Information is abundant. This is what is this? This one has 3 sentences. This is like what? Information goods are freely replicable. Once a thing is made, it can be copied and pasted infinitely. Yet is a transition that information is abundant. Information is abundant. Information is abundant. Information goods are replicable. It can be copied and pasted. And in one sense, you can actually see that you've got sentence number 1 and sentence number 3 connected with the idea that intellectual property right people protect. Yet, we have got a place where is abundant, and it's kind of very difficult to figure out what is exactly. But in some way, four is aligned to what is a conversation that is happening here. These links are not very obvious sort of links, but we know here. But reading this just doesn't make any sense. Economists believe that a new kind of capitalism is created. Where is the discussion about capitalism? This discussion is not happening, though we are not able to kind of exactly figure out what is the conversation happening here. But one thing that is certain, that this particular word has no role, and that particular sentence has to be the odd sentence here, right? Yeah. Okay. Taken from the Guardian. The topic is end of capitalism has begun. Okay, so the entire article is about capitalism. This is a long article. Okay, I'm going to hunt these sentences. Okay, let's start. During the right second world, economists viewed information simply as public good. The US government even decreed that no profit should be made out of patents, only the production of process itself. Then we began to understand intellectual property. In 1962, that's our sentence number 3, randomly in the middle of that paragraph, end of the paragraph. Kenneth Arrow, a guru of mainstream economics, said that the free market, okay, intellectual property right. That's it. He noted, or they were all missed. Okay. You can observe the truth of this in every uh, e-business model ever constructed. Monopolize and protect data. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. We stuck there. That is our sentence number 1. Okay. So we kind of missed this part. We chucked this one. Okay, let's carry on. Capture the free social interaction data. All these are not needed. Questions that I don't need all these sentences. If you restate Arrow principle in reverse, its revolution implications are obvious. If a free market economy plus intelligence probably leads to underutilized information, then economy based on fuel utilized information, well, all these are not there. Not there. Okay, not there. Not there. Or questions that are there, I will not use it. Yet information is abundant. Information is freely replicable. One thing is made, it can be copy pasted infinitely. Nice, nice, nice. We have got this particular sentence here. Where is it? Sentence number 5. So far, we have got sentence number 3, sentence number 1, sentence number 5 here. Nice, nice, nice. A music track. But what is all we not need? We don't need. For the past 25 years, economics have been wrestling with this problem. All mainstream economic, all this we don't need. There is alongside a world of monopolized information created by governments. Different information is a social good exploited. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, some version of this is sentence number 4. So this question setter, and I have no idea. This was somewhere else. This was in some other part of the conversation. This question setter picked 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, 3, 4, 5 from 6 paragraph. Picked 4 sentences to create his paragraph. And how did he create? There is no link between any of these sentences. Sentence picked as it is. We have picked 1 sentence from here. Nice. And directly pick this sentence. Probably it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. This sentence is okay. Because this part of the sentence is merely explaining what the sentence is. And then we went and picked this sentence. And we picked this sentence. It does make some sense. This one does make some sense. In 1962, Kenneth Arrow, the guru of mainstream economics, said that the free market economy, the purpose of inventing things is to create intellectual property rights. You can observe the truth of this in every business model ever constructed, monopolize, and protect data. Yet, information is abundant. Information goods are freely replicable. Once a thing is made, it can be copied and pasted infinitely. I think that these sentences are fitting perfectly. But only problem is this sentence. There is alongside the world of monopolized information and surveillance a different dynamic growing up. Information is a social good incapable of being owned, exploited, and priced. So there is actually sort of no direct linkage to this. The first 3 sentences are kind of good sentence. The question setup should have made some connection. There is just pick this sentence. But this odd sentence is definitely odd. Right, we have no crips here. This is definitely odd. Economists talking about the new kind of capitalism, different from industrial capitalism, market capitalism. There is nothing of that. There is no role of that particular sentence in the conversation that is going on. Yeah. 2 more, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to CAT 2021 slot number 2. Something that has happened last year. Those people who have taken slot 2 last year in CAT 20 would have gone, what is this slot in VRC? Slot 2. Had some crazy stuff going on. Okay. The care with which philosophers examine argument for and against forms of biotechnology. Right. So we have got this term, we're talking about philosophers, and there is argument for and against forms of, you've got this word biotechnology. Make this an excellent primer of on formulating and assessing moral argument. When you look at this, it said you have got another one. This sentence is talking about the fact that, okay, if you look at the argument that is there in biotechnology for and against, it's a we can use that to create moral arguments. So a lot of keywords that we can mention here. There are a lot of words here. Okay, fine. The sentence has got three sort of keyword. Philosophers can look at the debate around biotechnology and use that to formulate moral arguments. Nice, good. Although most people find at least some form of genetic engineering. So okay, biotechnology, genetic engineering will be sort of a part of it, but we don't know. Okay, let's just put that in another color. I'm losing out of color. Okay. Disquieting. It is not easy to articulate why. What is wrong with re-engineering our nature? Okay, so it's this particular sentence is taking out that many people who find at least some form of dent in bad, but is not figure say why. We don't know why. Fair enough. Breakthrough in genetics. Okay, we are getting to genetics. Presence with promise that we will soon be able to prevent host of debilitating diseases and predicament that our newfound genetic knowledge may enable us to enhance our genetic trait. Okay, so there is some positive about negative genetics, some positive thing. There are some people who find genetics negative, so we've got that contrast. Okay, to grapple with ethics of enhancement. Okay, fair enough. So we have this word. I think I can see the word enhance our genetic traits, the ethics of enhancement. Okay, we need to confront questions that verge on theology, which is why modern philosophers and political theorists tend to shrink from them. Okay, the modern philosophers don't look at that. Okay, right. One argument. What is one argument for what? Is that drive for human perfection through genetics. Okay, we have got genetics is objectionable as it represents a bid for mastery that fails to appreciate the gifts of human power and achievement. So this is talking about something that is negative for genetics. So I can see that there is probably some sort of a connection between 2 and 5 in one way, right? And we also can talk about the fact that breakthroughs in genetics present with promise that is debilitating disease. There's a predicament that a newfound genetic knowledge may enable to enhance a lot of things, but to do that, uh, we need to confront certain questions, and but philosophers are not caring about that. So probably some sort of a connection. Maybe this comes towards the end. Maybe that's happening. Maybe, or probably this can start with genetics. Is there? So some people has got certain issue, right? And we have got one argument is genetics objectionable, but to grapple with the ethics of these things, we have to confront a lot of questions. That could be a way in which it's connected. So here I think if you look at this sentence number one, it talks about biotechnology, that is sort of very broad, and it's talking about formulating and assessing moral arguments. That's about here. The hero is moral argument. Let's use biotechnology as a sort of a sub product for our hero, which is moral argument. So in this sentence, the focus largely is about let's just use biotechnology to create moral arguments. So, but none of these sentences, number 5, 4, 3, or 2, is addressing creation or assessment of moral arguments. It is talking about the issues within genetics, ethics around genetics, genetic engineering, enhancement. So ethics of enhancement and enhancement could be there and enhance our genetic trait. So we've got genetics is objectionable. So it's sort of debates around genetics. It's probably maybe very difficult to figure out what the exact flow is. We don't have to do that when it comes to odd sentence, and then maybe you can say that one is odd. Okay. But what is the question setter? This is taken from this journal, The Case Against Perfection, Ethics in the Age of Genetic Engineering. Oh, let's look at this. Okay. Let's look at what's happening here. Breakthroughs in genetic present with promise and predicament. Promise and predicament. This gives us positive as well as negative. But this question setter starts with promise. Break with promise. Just looked at promise. So predicament, he missed it. The promise that we will soon be able to treat debilitating diseases The predicament. Okay, we have got a predicament. Actually, if I look at it, this now I'm picking this one. This has got actually a positive statement, and there's a negative one, right? So we have got certain predicament that is mentioned here, some promise, and there is a negative. Okay, fair enough. The predicament. I think these all these sentences together is got together as our sentence number three. And although most people find at least some form generally it's quoting articulate why what is, I think these two sentences were connected together to create a sentence number two. Okay, we have got three and two. Okay, all right. The case against perfection explored these and other moral quandaries connected with the quest to perfect ourselves and our. Okay, all the same. The case against perfection explore these and other moral quandaries connected with this. You are exploring moral thing. This one is talking about formulating moral arguments, so that's very different. Okay, pursuit of perfection is flawed for reasons that go beyond safety and fairness. The drive to enhance human nature through genetic technology is objectionable. Oh, there you go. Okay, one argument that is objectionable. Okay, so there is some, it is picked from here, and some minor edit has been made to that particular sentence because a bit for gifted human achievements. Okay, there you have sentence number five. There you have sentence number five. Carrying us beneath the political discourse that is not there. In order to grapple with the ethics of environment, you need to confront the issues of model world. Modern, since this question verge on theology, all these are combined together and created sentence number four. How? This is from a journal, right? Number one. Number two is the discussion is very complicated, right? The original article is taking down and breaking down in one sentence. We have got another sentence, looking at lot many information to us, so that the information that is given to us is easy to digest. Now, what the question setter decided is that I'm going to combine these three sentences together to make one sentence. Then I'm going to combine all these sentences together and make one sentence. I'm going to ditch some of the sentences in the middle. I'm going to take this sentence and combine lot many things and create another sentence. And then I'm going to go all the way down here and then combine all these sentences and create the sentence. Now it does not matter because people would have already got confused with this with crazy ass sentences. Look at how big these sentences is, and then I'm just randomly going to write one sentence from somewhere, and people will anyway go bonkers because they will not know what the hell is happening, and I'll put it right in number one. You know how painful it is to give odd sentence in number one. Okay, look at let me actually let me open a page and help you understand. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, there is the odd sentence can be number one, right? Odd sentence can be the second sentence. Odd sentence can be the third sentence. Odd sentence can be the fourth sentence. Odd sentence can be the fifth sentence. Okay, let's start from here. The odd sentence is actually the fifth sentence. Now, what happens is that when I'm reading this, since this first four sentence is actually part of the story, we'll start seeing connection between the sentence. So it's easy to understand. When I read the first three sentences, because all of them are part of the actual paragraph, this makes sense. And if the odd sentence is actually the fourth sentence, it's still manageable, right? Because when I read the first three sentences, I know there is already some linkages. I get it. If the odd sentence is the third sentence, we start having a little bit of issue. Because we read the first sentence, we read the second sentence, somewhere they're connected. Then we go to the third sentence, we start getting, oh, okay. So then we start thinking, okay, so something is not going wrong, something is going wrong, we'll have a problem. Imagine the odd sentence to be the second sentence. We read the first sentence, we read the second sentence, there is no connection because second is actually odd. Then we go to the third sentence, then we are figuring out, okay, which one is connecting, which one is that. And now imagine the odd sentence is the first one. We read the first sentence. We go to the second sentence. We don't know what is happening. Then we go to the third sentence. The evil question sender will put the odd sentence as the first one. And to create the first sentence an odd sentence. And to create such long sentences combined together on such a topic, pure evil. Then And you could you could read this, and let's just read this sentence and see. Okay, let's just read this sentence. What is the paragraph? Breakthroughs in genetics present us with a promise that we will soon be able to prevent a host of debilitating diseases, and the predicament that our newfound genetic knowledge may enable us to enhance our genetic traits. Although most people find at least some form of genetic engineering disquieting, it is not easy to articulate why. What is wrong with re-engineering on nature? One argument is that drive for human perfection through genetics is objectionable, and it represents a bid for mastery that fails to appreciate gifts of human personal achievement. To grapple with the ethics of enhancement, we need to confront questions that verge on theology, which is why modern philosophers and political theorists tend to shrink from them. What is this? What what is this? Fair enough. The question that I said, okay, I'm gonna ensure that the odd sentence is so odd that I'm just going to use the word biotechnology, where everything is actually talking about genetic engineering specifically. Genetic enhancement. Okay, probably this one, genetics. So that's be good enough. And the whole thing about this moral arguments is not mentioned anywhere else. So you don't have to actually reorder this. It's there. It's easy. This question is easy question. I'm just trying to psych you out. That's what the question is saying. We go to the last one, and this one is so. Oh, let too good. Okay. A particularly interesting example of inference occurs in many single panel comics. Okay, so we have got inference as the word. So you've got this word inference occurs in single panel comics. A particularly interesting example, which means interesting example of inference. So if there is a sentence before it, it should introduce as inference and then say inference occurs in single panel comic. Whatever sentence that goes after it has to explain to us what is inference that happening in single panel comics. So that's what this sentence is trying to do. It's a creator's perception. So we have got another word here, keyword. Let's look at it's a creator's perception and imagination that makes a single panel comic so engaging and so rewarding. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, we've got what makes single panel comic rewarding. It's a person who creates it. Okay, often the humor requires you. Okay, so now he's talking to us. You means we'll be probably the reader to imagine what happened in the instant immediately before or immediately after the panel you have been shown. So imagine what happened. In one sense you're making inferences, no? Okay, so humor required to get a joke. You actually have to figure out. Okay, so let's yellow signal. You actually have to figure out what simple panel to be. Okay, this have to figure out what some of these missing simple panels figure out. That is again inference. So you've got some missing some of these missing. So you've got missing must be. So you've got a single panel comic. No, you just have one panel comic. So just one comic. So there are maybe something before it, something after it. You have to make sense of that, and maybe you have to figure out. So this 3 or 4 makes sense. It is as though the cartoon is the creator, right? So here we have the creator devised a series of panels to sell a story and chosen to show you only one, and typically not even the funniest. So chosen to show you only one, and chosen to show only one. So you have to figure out some of these other things. So these 3 sentences make a lot of sense, right? In sort of connected in nice way, and therefore these inferences. So we need sentence number 1 to start the conversation. Now sentence number 2, you're looking at so engaging. Now you actually look at that sentence. It says creator's participation and imagination. It says the creator is imagining. Who is imagining? We are imagining. We are trying to figure out. Inference is made by us, not the creator, but the audience. This sentence number 2, it doesn't make sense. This should be odd, right? You're asking me to imagine. Then you're asking the audience to imagine. This is like audience imagining. The audience imagining. This is for us, for the audience, chosen to show you, And where is the creator's participation then? And where is the creator's imagination? It's audience participation, audience imagination. That makes sense. That should be number 2. Now you look at this is taken from this book. Okay. This took a lot of while to actually search this one. Okay. But finally got it. I'm going to look at part of this. Okay. So it's immediately what happened instantly before after being shown, which will be that one. It is as though the cartoonist divides the panel typically 1. Okay. Which all that. Look at the odd sentence. It is right there in the middle of the conversation. It is act of audience participation and imagination. The sense was audience. You know what the question setter done? Pick the sentence exactly as it is and then changed audience to creator and gave the chance and gave it to us. This makes sense. A particularly interesting example of inference occurs in many single panel comics. Often the humor requires you to imagine what happens in the instant immediately before or immediately after the panel is shown. It is as though the cartoonist devises a series of panel tell you the story and has chosen to show you only one, and typically not even the funnest. To get the joke, you actually have to figure out creators' participation. Ladies and gentlemen, what can we learn? I think what the question setter is doing, they are doing everything possible. They're basically taking a source, right? They are picking stuff from some source. They're picking stuff from some source and they're editing it and creating their own paragraphs. So all we have to have certain tools, some logical tool in our disposal to figure out how to handle odd sentence questions. It cannot be based on connector words, right? Or transition words. It has to be based on logic. How the keyword repetition happens, right? What word are echo words? Which word is echoing? What is the argument that is presented? What is the logical flow of idea that one can see? And which is that one sentence that does not make any sense. Okay. Next time when we do an odd sentence lesson, keeping this in mind, we'll try and create some. Oh, what happened to my hand? Oh, this green. Green is not good. What's happening? It's only this hand. Wait a minute. This hand is okay. What's happening to my right hand? It's gone. After doing odd sentence, the right hand has become very odd. Okay. In the next set of videos, when we do, we'll keep these things in mind and devise strategy to deal with odd sentence questions.